Good evening. My name is Bob Stone, Chair of the Underhill Selectboard. Today is the 5th of December. It is 6:30 p.m. We have a special Selectboard meeting warned for this evening. An agenda has been provided. I will now call the meeting to order. Are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none. Any public comment? We have no one here at the town hall. Anyone virtually have any public comment? Seeing and hearing none, we'll get right to it. The first item on the agenda is to, or the next item on the agenda is to review the fiscal year 26 proposed budget version number 3 and consider the following items. So the first item to consider is the case CX145D Mulcher hydraulic kit. Russ is here. I'm sure if there are any questions, Russ would be able to help us out with questions on that. Any questions regarding the case CX145D Mulcher hydraulic kit?
What is it again? What is it again, and why do we need it?
All right, so what this is, it's a proportioning valve that on a normal excavator wouldn't be needed, but with the mulcher head, which we have used with without this kit, but what you have to do without this kit is you have to manually hold the lever with your thumb to make the mulcher work. You can't turn it on and leave it on. You have to manually hold it with a lever or button with your thumb the whole time you're operating the machine, which through a day's time can be annoying. As well as if you try to move the machine with the mulcher head going, it takes power away from the mulcher head from the machine, for the machine to operate, to move. Or if you're on a slight incline and the boom has to go uphill while you're mulching, it loses power to the mulch head, so it doesn't continually speed up, stay at the correct speed to mulch. So this attachment puts all power to the mulcher head so the excavator can operate at the same time as the mulcher head does. This was brought to our attention when we were purchasing a machine, because the state of Vermont had the same issue where they had bought some machines and then ended up having to add these valving system afterwards. So we thought we would try it first to see how it did for us. And after, if you run it for 6 or 7 hours a day, it is not good. So this kit, which will take care of that issue and be able to operate it fully.
Does the kit cut the time of a job?
Would it cut the time on the job?
Yeah.
Oh, it most definitely would, because right now if we're trying to move the boom uphill, it takes power away. So you kind of reposition the machine, and then you can really only mulch one way because you can't bring it back up. If the excavator is downhill, you know what I'm saying? If you're going downhill versus you got to bring the arm up, or if you want to hold the mulcher in place and move the excavator along so you can kind of mow along in a section that's not a lot of work to be done, just steady work, it would definitely increase productivity.
And does the hydraulic kit work? Is there any other implements that have that same issue with a power drain while trying to move?
No.
No. Okay.
No, just that.
Russ, we had talked about this mulcher kit at the time of purchasing, correct?
It was shortly after the time of purchase, before we had our loan closed. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the lesson with that was that when we went for voter approval, I don't think it was clearly written as far as, for all the implements that we thought that we may need, and we thought that, it would include it, but did not. And so we erred on holding off and then maybe putting it in for this budget cycle to see if we could get that through as the road crew articulated that it would be well worth it for them to have that piece of equipment for their new excavator. So I think that's the main reason why that's in there, is that was, maybe in the future we'll try to maybe wordsmith it a little bit better so that we'll have, some wiggle room for different various things with when we go for an equipment purchase or whatnot. Any other questions regarding the case CX 145D Mulcher?
None. Thank you, Russ.
And not a question, but just for your consideration, if you'd like to add this to this next version 4, which will be for next Thursday, my recommendation would be that we add it, and Russ and I discussed this, to line 235, which is heavy equipment maintenance, because this is not technically a capital expense, even though it's expensive. We're actually, it would be considered maintenance or repairs or to an existing piece of equipment. So that would be the line item that it would go on. So line 235, which is heavy equipment maintenance. And right, we haven't gotten to it, but it's way down the list, but.
I need you a hard copy of the budget too, if you guys want.
Or if we have surplus, because we haven't voted to what we're going to do with any of the surplus from last fiscal year, we could move to purchase that now, correct?
No, the surplus, the surplus typically would get used. You would have to ask the residents you could put that in the warning. But once we know what the surplus is for fiscal year 26, we then meet together and the board determines these are the things that we'd like to put on a warning for use of the surplus, but the residents have to vote on use of the surplus.
Okay.
So if you put it in the budget as an expense, then it doesn't have to be in the warning.
And the residents will vote on it anyway when they
Right,
vote on the
the
budget.
residents are voting on it.
And it
So
can be
it's-
explained if a question is asked.
Yeah, so my recommendation at this stage of the budget, and obviously it's always up to you guys, is to put it in. Let's see where we shake out, see where we are with the surplus, see where we are with the tax, where the percent, shakes out, and then we can always start pulling things back out. And certainly you can go ask the voters for that, but I'm not sure what other questions are, what else is going to be on the warning. So sometimes it's easier if we know that there's something that we had wanted to do last year or this fiscal year and we didn't for the reasons that we didn't, which made sense. You could always put it in here and then always on, if we put it in on version 4 and we look at version 4 and we start to look at the numbers and it doesn't make sense, you can always say, no, let's pull that back out and recommend to do it another way. But
Okay.
when we get to that line item, you can certainly tell me and I'll add it back. I'll add it in if you want me to.
Thank you. That's very helpful. If we don't have any more questions or if there are no further questions regarding the Mulcher head, we can move on to the next item, which is the Tech Group Managed Care Plan, Firewall and Server Replacement discussion. Brad, do you want to hit that one?
What's that?
You want
Yeah.
to take the lead on that one?
Yeah.
Before we jump in that, we're going to go through line by line.
Yes.
So there's another chance to ask
Yes.
questions. Okay.
Yeah, that's
So,
another way we could do it. We could go through line by line and wait until these items come up and talk about it, or we could talk about them in the order I
That's
have.
fine. I just want to make sure that we have the opportunity to circle back around because I have some questions.
Everyone else can.
And just a thing back on the surplus, you could always I think what Bob's alluding to is try to use the surplus to help this budget, which you can't do because the fiscal year is closed. So you have to ask the voters what you want to do with the surplus. However, you could ask them to, you could lower the tax burden by using the surplus on this fiscal year's budget instead of putting it in a reserve. So that's another option.
Sure.
Typically we always stick surplus in reserve, typically,
For the rainy day or?
yeah, which
Well,
isn't
soon
a bad
that
way
may
to go
happen.
either.
Or if we have specific expenses that we know are coming up, and when we get to surplus discussion, we can certainly talk about all the different options.
Okay, so Tech Group?
Yeah, so the managed care, so I went over at nauseum with Tech Group and I've got it whittled down. So we're going to have 13 basic licenses, email licenses. That's going to include, so everybody's going to have, the committees are going to have one. Don Toby, I asked him, the tree warden, if he'd like one. He would certainly be fine with that. So would Deb Moore with the health officer, because that's key. Because if these positions ever change, right, then this email stays there, and then they have the history, right? The next person would have the history. So committee chairs, and then we have our 6 premium licenses for all of us. So this is kind of an updated quote, and it comes out to $621 monthly. And then there were some additional options here that we could add on that they suggested. This isn't necessary, but they have a security awareness training for like $263 a month. I'm not so sure if we need that. I think there are security awareness training seminars we can take with Vermont League of Cities and Towns. There's a thing called vulnerability testing. What that is they actually go out on the dark web and see if there's any, if our information's out there or if anything looks suspicious. So that's another, and these are all monthly charges. But the password management services, that sounded like kind of an interesting thing to me, because we all have so many passwords, it's ridiculous, for different portals and all kinds of things. So that might be something we want to take a look at. And I could get some more information on this and possibly look at the dark web or the vulnerability testing. But I guess if you take this, everything they suggested here, 560 times 12, it's another $6,700. So it's not insignificant. But if we took, say, the, where's my calculator go here? If you took just the 255 for the vulnerability plus the 42, 255 plus the 42 equals that times 12, we'd be looking at 3,500. That's less the security awareness training.
And I think just so you guys are clear, the plan that we have now, which is obviously slightly different, because this is different. This is adding additional licenses and some other things. We were paying about $1,500 a month. So with this plan, it's somewhere around $1,900 a month.
Yeah, it's 16. It's actually 1621 is the quote a month.
Right, plus the other things.
This is just the managed care renewal proposal. There's several chunks in here, right?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch to it, but this gets us tech support. They're constantly doing all kinds of things behind the scenes. This is one piece of it, but this is mostly our email services and our cloud services, backup, virus, ransomware protection, all that key stuff. And Tech Group, works with a lot of municipalities, so they know exactly. Jericho just switched to Tech Group. Cambridge switched to Tech Group. I'm pretty happy with them and their service. So.
And so you have a recommendation for the board, Brad?
Yeah, I would recommend that possibly for now we stick in the vulnerability testing and the managed password management services.
Mm-hmm. But not the security.
But not the security awareness training. We could probably, I think we can get that through DLCT. So that's my proposal there. This is kind of there's a few moving pieces here. But I can talk about the next part was the sonic wall. So the firewall is like, that's our first line of defense, and everything goes through the firewall. Our firewall is definitely out of date. We did replace the switch, so we got a new switch. So that's good. We did that a couple years or 3 years ago. But I'm recommending that we definitely want to do the firewall or the sonic wall hardware upgrade, and that's $1,795. And the labor estimate is on the high side of labor. It'll be they'll charge whatever the hourly rate was to set it up. This is basically comes with a 3-year service plan. So typically right now, I think Jennifer we pay $1,500 a year because our firewall's out of date. So we get charged an additional $1,500 a year just to kind of service it, whatever they do behind the scenes. But this includes a 3-year, so we don't have to worry about it for 3 years. You just confirm that. Yeah, so the firewall replacement, 3-year sonic wall support. So we've got support for 3 years. We're paying $1,500 a year for support right now. So after 3 years, an annual renewal will come up, and then we'll probably be back on what we're on now. So definitely recommending we put that in the budget. And again, these quotes are only good for, they're good for to the end of the year.
So for the firewall, that's a total of 2705.
Yeah, but it could come in a little bit lower because of the labor.
Right.
I put it in
For now-
budget version 3, it's in here at 2705.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that would include the 3 years of
Yeah.
maintenance or service on it.
Right.
And then in year 4 is when something around the $1,500
Would pop up.
would
Yeah.
pop. Okay, got it.
So the recommendation that you've made is in version number 3 of the budget, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Good.
Yep.
And
Are there any-
detailed in the margin.
And are there any other questions for Brad regarding the tech group managed care plan?
There's another piece to it
There's
too.
there's another
Okay,
piece to it.
Page 2.
Sorry.
So what really I think we need to start thinking about is our servers, approximately 7 years old, maybe going on 8 years old. I think it was purchased in 2017. So now that Jennifer, Sherry, and Amanda are using the online or the cloud version of Nemrick, the reason we had the server was mainly because we had applications on it, right?
And
So-
all of our financial Nemrick records were backed up to it.
Right. So, and you're running the Nemrick application off the server. Now Nemrick's run out of the cloud. Information is all on the cloud.
Correct.
That was a question they had. Is past information on the cloud still too?
Yes.
Okay. So if that's the only reason we're really keeping the server around is just to run that one application that we don't longer run, all our files are stored there too. So they get backed up every night or every couple of days. So what they're suggesting, a new server is basically 20 grand.
And Brad, sorry, but just to emphasize,
Yeah.
Brad's point with that was if we don't need a $20,000 new server because the only thing we really had it for is Nemrick and backing up our documents, if there's another lesser expensive way to back up our documents. So that's.
Right. So we can use this thing called SharePoint migration. So basically all our information go out to the cloud and it'd be secure, more secure. The security guy, I met with him in tech group too, and they're saying that it's more safe to keep our information on the cloud than it is to have it in this server. Somebody could walk in and just walk
'Cause
out,
it's encrypted.
walk out of it, walk out with it. Very possible. You have heard of that. I've heard about it on stories where, somebody just walks in, grabs a server and leaves. Basically, if we wanted to move towards a SharePoint migration, they're estimating that to do that work is going to be, and these are high quotes. They don't have specific quotes, but they went on the very conservative side, and they're saying it's $18,000. So the benefit of that is, and we're already paying for a service, we're already paying for this cloud service anyway. So once we get it there, there's no real expense. And then it's cloud to cloud backup. So the good thing is when we get it all in the cloud, another 7 years comes around and we're not going to be buying a server. We're just going to be in a better place. So that is cooked into the budget. I think we used 20.
I only used 10,000 because you
10.
didn't have
Oh,
the
right, we
final
didn't
quote.
have the number.
So it's 8,000 short
So-
on the version 3.
So really, but I think we added the full version. what did we put for the managed care? Didn't we do the whole?
1,900, which is what you had said, I think. We did for the managed care, which was everything except for the
Except for
the training.
Okay.
And then for the server to iCloud, we used a $10,000 placeholder because we were waiting for that quote.
Right.
So in version 4, I can add,
I'm suggesting we migrate to the cloud.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So what would happen if the server died tonight?
We have they back it up every 2 days. But however, that being said, it's not like you can just get all that information back.
takes days.
Yeah.
So the reason why I'm asking the question is I guess I'm using the analogy of you have a refrigerator and it may be 10 years old. You know that appliances only last for so long, and that, do you want to go out and replace the refrigerator and put it out in the garage and have it for, when you have overflow, when the holidays come around, and buy a new refrigerator, type of thing, or you just squirrel the money away. And then when the day comes that when the refrigerator conks out or when the server conks out, we keep that money and keep a mindful eye on, we know how much it's going to cost to do this migration, and then that money will be in the budget for that when that day comes that we know that we have a older server, and that may be a possibility, but for right now, it seems like it works.
Yeah, but the problem is there's another part to this thing. So
there's a page 3.
There's a page 3.
Okay.
So Microsoft will no longer provide security patches for this in October.
Well, that's important.
It is. So I was getting there. But so we can't think about it and just be caught with our pants down, so to speak, in October, not, with that expense. It's not to say that they couldn't continue to support it, but you're going to pay somewhere along the line, and basically it's our lifeline. I mean, this is all stuff we
No, I'm with you with
every
that.
day.
I was just wondering, like, if we.
Yeah.
No, your point is really valid. Yeah.
And so the 18,000 is the cost for the migration.
Mhm.
And then is there an ongoing cost for?
Shouldn't be, because we're paying for in our managed care system.
Mhm.
I think it's all there.
It's all in okay.
So would we run this and replace it in October, or we would do it ahead of, like, once the budget gets approved and start working on it July 1,
I'd do it July 1, just start the process.
and then phase that server out once that's complete?
And that also gives us some time for that process to happen, or any glitches that potentially happen before October.
Then Patty could use it.
And that'll be at least the security patches are still good, we'll be secure. This stuff is just all really expensive, right? So it's how we function every day efficiently.
So you should increase that line item to reflect the actual.
Yeah, I will,
Cost.
version 4
So
will
version
increase
4?
that line by 8,000.
8,000
Yeah,
more.
I got the note right now.
Any other questions regarding tech group and the managed care plan, firewall and server replacement discussion?
That was a lot to run down. Thank you, Brad.
Yeah, sorry, that's a lot right now. That's it
The Paul Harvey movement
for
right there.
that.
Good day.
Um,
Next one's consider the 1 to 3 year contract for printing of the annual town report. Got a recommendation on that one?
I do. I talked to Sherry about it, and we're all very, very happy with Reaper Graphics. I mean, when I was practicing surveying, I've done business with them since '88, and they are even before that. I think the printing is the most professional. I think you all would agree. Looks the most professional it has ever. And their price is very competitive. They do, I don't know how many towns, they must do 100 town reports. That's all they kind of specialize in it. I recommend that we sign up for 3 years with them and save a couple $100. And sign a 3-year contract with them.
Is there provision in there that if they went out of business that we would get any money back or anything like that?
Well, we only pay for the year we're in. We're not going to prepay
I got you.
Yeah,
But signing a contract gives us a better rate.
it does.
Yeah.
It's only a couple $100, but
Good idea. I like the report too. I think it's come out really well.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they're really easy to work with. There's nothing more stressful than like trying to get that document to the printer, but it's got to be there.
So is it the consensus of the board that we go with a 3-year deal?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Okay,
If you just want to authorize
authorize to
me
go
sign it.
with a 3-year deal, Brad. Yes, we'll authorize you to move forward with a 3-year deal. That's the consensus. Next item is discuss line 7, the select board contingency.
Yes, so, line,
65.
line number 65, says Brad, I'm not there yet. Line 65 says grant and other expenses on the select board line. And then you'll see, I printed out in your packet, there's two years worth of history on this line. The one says previous year, which is fiscal year 24, and the other one says fiscal year 23. So I went back 2 years and looked at what's been in that line, which we've always said select board contingency is $10,000. So some of that's discretionary for the select board, some of it's things that, just come up. But I feel like we always go over and it's never anywhere around 10,000 because there's regular things that we're putting into that category. So I feel like we need to own what's really in that category so we can better budget rather than budget it at 10,000 and 1 year it was 27,000 and then the year before that it was I can't remember what, but so I just want us to like be mindful of it and look at what's in there.
We're talking about line 65.
Yes,
So the other expense is considered the
the catch-all.
catch-all.
Like our all hazard mitigation or our municipal roads general permit, these annual fees. The thing is, we have codes for this that we keep track of, but like Jennifer explains,
Yeah.
we only have so many lines in the budget,
Right.
Yeah.
and there's not many places. Otherwise, you just have too many
Yeah, way too many.
categories.
So I wanted us to say, okay, so this past year, there's things that came up, like we decided to do the security system at the garage. Well, that wasn't something that we had budgeted in the highway. We're handling that differently. Those types of things are handled differently in fiscal year 25, because if we say we're going to buy something and the board says we want to do something and it's not in the budget on one line item, it's going to be pulled from somewhere else, hopefully on the same budget year. But we didn't specifically do that last year. So that's why, which isn't going to matter fiscally or financially for us for fiscal year 2024, but because we do have a sizable surplus, but it's just not good management to go over a line item when we want to start off with saying if it's going to be 10,000, then that's our goal, not it's going to be 25,000. So there's a couple of things in there that seem to come up all the time that I just feel like we're not always budgeting for. So I just wanted my proposal would be for you, rather than, I put it at 12,000, and the reason I increased it to 12,000 is because we've been putting into that every year and then a larger amount every 3 or 5 years, the municipal road
General
permit that we have.
That's a fee every year.
And it's a fee every year, and that's been going in there. But again, then that takes away from the 10,000 contingency that you have. So my proposal would be that we increase that to 12,000. And secondly, I just wanted to make the board aware that in prior years, you can see by the long list that I attached of the years that we tend to put things into that we haven't budgeted, that I think we need to, if something comes up, for example, we're going to put in the AEDs. Okay, great. Where can we take that from in the budget? And let's be very conscious that we're subtracting from somewhere else to add it into that budget. So we're not making this line always look like we didn't budget for those things. So that was why I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Perfect. Next item is 65, the local agreement.
Yeah, so the local agreement, I wanted to make everyone aware, municipal budgeting isn't like regular business budgeting. We have all kinds of different things that come up, some of which is dictated, by the state, and some is dictated by education taxes and the school system, and some is Vermont state law, things like that. So I wanted to bring to your attention line number 7, the local agreement. I gave you something that defines what the local agreement is, but specifically for the town of Underhill, or if anyone ever asks you what it is and you want to be able to educate and tell them that, we have certain properties where we have contracts on the property. So basically what this is this is foregone income. So it's income that we're not getting from other sources. So we have, for instance, we have veterans exemptions and land contracts, and there's probably a few more other things, but that's the example. And that is something that Amanda plugs a number into her land record system, and it regurgitates that number. So that's the number that we're running with for next year. But I just wanted to make sure that you all understood what that was, because that's certainly something that when you're not in municipal government, you would have no idea what that was.
Perfect.
And it's a big chunk of money, so. So we don't, it's not on the line item for tax revenue, because it's money that we don't get from taxes.
Sure.
It's actually money we have to pay because we're still obligated to pay the
school.
education tax.
We have to collect that from all the other rest. of the-
Everybody else.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the current use program.
Right.
This is a Patty Richards fund.
So just one of those quirky things.
Thank you for that. No.
That would be bad. That would be bad.
So we have the last item on this review proposal, number 3, is the appropriations.
Yeah, there's a couple new appropriations that came in.
Yeah, so there is Mount Mansfield Community TV has asked for a slight increase that, so we have an appropriations policy, and so long as it doesn't go up more than a certain amount of money, we're okay. So they are within that threshold. So it's just a bump up from 26 to 28. And Mount Mansfield Community TV does a whole lot for us. Amazing, the stuff they do. And they broadcast all of our meetings, and they're all on cable TV. So a lot of people watch them. So I'm glad to have them. Anyway, and then the other thing, more importantly here, is this, remember the Jericho Underhill Food Hub and Sandy Wilmot giving us the presentation, and then you decided to give them a little seed money out of the contingency fund, I think.
Yep.
This year, they would like to become an annual appropriation.
Good, I'm glad they decided to do that.
Yeah,
Glad they decided to do that, because they were on the fence. They weren't sure they would need it or want it,
right.
but they must have plans.
They do, and I included in the packet something that Sandy did. The trick here is our appropriations policy is like, it's kind of strict, but if there's a new appropriation, that entity has to give us the information, like I think it's 180 days before the annual meeting. And not 180, that seems like
I don't remember.
too much.
Yeah.
Anyway, I did the calculation. Sandy reached out before she put this together, and she kind of missed by a week. So it doesn't say shall, the person shall. It says must. So very specific. So unfortunately, what you could either, but you're allowed to put anything you want on the warning. We do have a policy. Policy's a policy. There's a little bit of wiggle room. I think the policy is, I don't know, I'm trying to advocate for them a little bit here.
So why can't we put in that we'll be at the threshold of the policy and then entertain the idea on the floor?
Well, so it'd have to go on. So if they did meet, say they got it in on a timely basis, basically what you would do is just put this on the warning. So it's up to the taxpayers to
Right,
decide.
but they didn't. So we got to follow the policy. So the policy's going to say,
So they're going to have to petition and get 15% of the, I think it's 15 or 5. Sherry and I were talking about it. She looked it up. It's not, it's 5% or 15. I think it's 15%.
Of
So they're
voter
gonna,
signatures.
yeah. So they're going to have to get signatures
that should be easy to do.
and petition. It's around 130 or so, but yeah.
Mhm.
So if we want to stick hard and fast with the policy, which is
Well,
probably a good idea.
I don't know that we really have much say other than to follow the policy.
Okay,
If it says it must, and we have a policy, it's just like that's dangerous water. If we
Yeah.
start to go down a path that says, a policy says we're going to do this, and then we just say, nah.
Yeah. So something we may well look at in the future is an appropriations policy for next year,
Let's bring it up in April.
Yeah, exactly. New board. So I will inform Sandy and they can get a petition going. We'll tell them
I'd be happy to sign that, by the way.
I think we all would.
I think if
There's no
people
question.
brought it to 5 or 6 people, their neighbors or whatever, I think that
You'd have
they
it.
would not have a problem.
Bring it to the church on Sunday.
Sunday.
That thing will be signed in the weekend.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a problem.
Something here too.
Yeah, we'll have it down there, definitely.
Okay, so that's
That.
that.
Okay.
Now,
Now, do you want to go line item by line item
Yes.
through the thing?
Sounds good.
Hey, Jennifer, it's your time to shine.
All right, let's do this. I also did a sheet, a cover sheet, but you'll see that in version 3 is green. So everything that's highlighted in green for the fiscal year budget are the things that either came in since version 2 or changed between version 2 and version 3. I think that's a really easy way for me to determine it when I go update it each week. And I already started next week, so I'm going to surprise you with the color. Line 7, the local agreement, we already did. And if there's other items that you want to discuss, just stop before we get there. Line 24 is the state current use. And the reason that I'm highlighting that is because
it's not highlighted on our copy.
It is.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I guess I get the
You got the,
version.
what are you looking at?
I don't know.
Mine's highlighted.
Mine says version 3.12.3.
So does mine.
Anyway,
Anyway, it says 57,000, and that is a number that we don't know until the school gives it to us. So it's always a best guess, which is why we're not ever really
guessing.
totally right on that.
excuse me, Patty, if you're not going to use yours, could I grab your copy of the budget? If you're just,
Paper copy?
yeah, if you're not going to use it.
Make sure.
Flipping to page 2. Line 27, transfer and ARPA, still waiting, gonna still wait on that till we decide whatever we spend it on, it goes there. Line 28, nothing changed there between this version and that version. Okay, the next one that changed is
52.
52, but I didn't really change it. I just put a number there, and I would like to reserve the right to discuss that in detail next Thursday, because I'm hoping by then we'll have a better idea of these numbers. The surplus number is that I give you to work with for fiscal year 26 is based on our expenses for fiscal year 26. So until we have a pretty close to firm number of our expenses, I can't really give you a surplus number. So it's always easiest if I wait till we're a little bit closer. but it isn't definitely in the multiple hundreds, so.
Very good. 58.
Line 58, this one will be totally adjusted for next week, but it'll be based, remember we'd made the decision on which medical insurance we're going to go with, so that number there will be based on that. I'm pretty sure that 26 is the number, but I will have it firmed up once we have the signed documents from Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Our census may change slightly because it's the open enrollment period, just to be clear. So if somebody says, if somebody had a single family plan, we have so few people on our plan that when one person changes, the number changes dramatically. So I won't know for sure till I have the census, how many individual, family, couple, et cetera, that I have. The next one is the line we just talked about, 65, which is the grant and other expenses, which is your contingency. And so my proposal is to make that 12,000 and to make sure that we don't use that as a catch-all and that we own our expenses. Next one.
117.
I'm looking to see, I don't see anything on there.
That's the next one that's green.
Next one that's green, 117. That one we talked quite a bit about, and that is the tech expenditures. It's a big number, and I think originally when we were looking at this number, we're like, it's going to probably be back down to closer to what it was the year before. But because we're looking at all of these additional expenses with tech group, that bumps it up. And if you look to the right, I explain what those expenses are. Our website will be 6,000. Our NEMRIC operated all of our software that we all use for finance and land records, appraisal software, everything is all NEMRIC. And that's 6,360. Our monthly charges with tech group, the firewall charge and the server, which says 10,000, but that will change to 18, are all built into that 48,000. And that really doesn't give us a lot else. So that if there is an issue, that's not giving us any cushioning. So if there's an issue with any of our laptops or anything else that needs to be updated, we don't have anything built in there. So once we get this all nailed down, we may want to also look at, hey, well, what if? So I forget how old our laptops are, but.
Yeah, so our laptops were bought with the Elger grant in 2020, but probably 2020.
It was the thing that happened before the ARPA funds.
Yeah.
During COVID.
I think we're okay. We may do a RAM upgrade to, I think we'll be okay for another year with our laptops.
Yeah.
So.
But it's probably not a bad idea to have some kind of a cushion built into
You have to
that line item.
Well, in case the TV
Yeah.
fails or one of these things fails or
Yeah.
anything, there's nothing. So I don't know.
What if we added a 15% contingency to that item?
That sounds like a
That would be
reasonable thing to do.
7227. Just make it a formula and add 15% to whatever we have in. Because there's always surprises that pop up during freeze.
Yeah.
For IT
If it doesn't
stuff.
get used, it doesn't get used. And if
Exactly.
it's something we need to trim down at version 5 or whatever, we will. And that's a good idea to have something built in there.
Yeah.
And I'll make a note that in the margin that we added the 15% contingency. Okay, moving down to post office maintenance and repair. I am still waiting for the quotes. I met with 4 different firms and went over the outside painting of this building and the outside painting of that building and of the post office building and the repairs that needed to happen. And I still haven't gotten any quotes on any of the exterior stuff yet. So I will definitely have it by Thursday.
Is it going as one project? Like
No.
they're separate?
Separate.
Okay.
Totally separate. And there are, there's potential, they're old buildings. So we also, one of the guys who I met with, I went over and talked to him. I also talked to him about the lead law rules. And he went back to his company and they're not lead certified. So obviously the town of Underhill isn't going to hire them to scrape or paint a building that's very old next to two residences when they're not lead certified. So one of the guys is out as of today, but hopefully I'll have some numbers. So I just plugged a number in there for the post office
Don't eat the chips.
and awaiting the quote there.
It's also going to need some
Yeah.
repair work on the porch. Hopefully
Yeah.
it's
I didn't have
painted.
to worry about that as a kid.
Should I even, maybe I should also have Seth take a look at that.
Yeah, septic soften, maybe throw in like $2,500 at like,
One of the corners of the porch, you can go pull it, if you pull in where the handicap parking is and you look, it's completely gone underneath the
there's no
pillar.
gutter.
There's nothing there.
There's no gutter, so the water comes down that corner and just splashes up on the,
So I'll try and get an estimate on that too for next week. Schoolhouse. So I have met with Roger several times. He wanted to come talk to you about this, but I felt that I could do a pretty good job of representing him. So I don't know if he's on the radio listening or TV or whatever. The metal roof that's on the schoolhouse was done in 1987. They were told at the time that it had to have this regular maintenance done every X number of years, and it has never been done. So the roof is in bad shape, but it can be painted, and he's working on getting quotes for that. It's a special kind of paint. It is very rare, called red oxide linseed oil paint for this roof. So I have the whole history of this. If you require backup, I can get it for you. He asked me to plug in a number of 7,500 to get up on that roof and paint it with the 2 coats of this rare paint. So I have a number in there, which is their regular number, plus I added a little bit extra. Hopefully we can get some real numbers, and maybe when we get, I already forwarded Roger the people who came to look at these 2 projects, because I didn't know about that one at the time, or I would have brought them over there too. But hopefully by next week we can get some real numbers. But again, that's something that needs to happen, or that roof.
Ask Roger when he's going to paint the shed.
It needs to be painted too.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's been there for a while and I don't want it to rot. So
That's an easy one.
If we're gonna have this stuff, we need to take care of it.
Okay, I will, I'll get back to Roger on that, and also see if we get a quote for next week.
Or if we're going to be having people, paint the post office, I would imagine that it would be pretty easy for them to hit that too, or maybe they can handle it if they went and got a couple gallons of paint and did it themselves. I would think that that's not a lot of ladder work on that shed.
I did my shed that's bigger than that in a weekend by myself with a sprayer, so it's not a big deal.
I'm sure there's some Boy Scouts that would love to help.
It could be a great project for Boy
Absolutely.
Scouts.
That's what I'm saying. But I just hate to see it. They worked hard to get that, and I want
Yeah,
to make
no,
sure
I
we take
agree.
care of it.
I'll definitely reach back out to him when I talk to him about the painting jobs. So that will probably end up being a different color next week. Moving down to traffic calming and safety line 146. We revisit this one regularly. I believe after our meeting with the sheriffs, we talked about making sure that there is a subscription with each of the cameras that we have, so that we can get the data on this, so that it's useful information for us. And then we also said that we would like to add 2 new signs. So that's what the 21,000 represents. 1,500 per year for the subscription for the software, and then the 2 new signs.
yeah, so we'd have a total of
6.
6 signs when we're done. Yeah. And the portable. Well, actually, yeah, that's right. So we've got 2, We got 4 now.
Right.
We had 2 more.
Need
We
more
had 2
hands.
more, so we still have that. We still have that portable one. So it's really 7.
Takes the shoes
So
off,
it's
we
7,
gotta
but
be ready.
we wouldn't have a subscription for the one.
Well, the portable one is why? Because that's the best part.
It's not always up and active either.
No, true. That is true. But
One of those you put here, you put there.
but you can get data when you put it here, put it there. That's the benefit.
Speeding data, like if somebody complains about.
I don't think. Oh no, I remember now. The one on Park Street, we're gonna take the data off of that one. The one coming eastbound on Park Street,
We're gonna keep it.
because it doesn't work properly anyway for the data.
Yeah.
It's too much going on.
So we're
there.
good.
That
We'll
was
have
it.
7
We'll
signs,
have 7 signs and
6
6
subscriptions.
packages.
Line 150 is the Underhill Jericho Fire Department, and that number has now been confirmed.
Well, or
So
it's
I will not be participating in that discussion that's going to take place on Monday. Those of you that are going to be participating in that, you need to pay close attention to the use of surplus. Right now, they are going to use surplus to affect the budget. The next year, that surplus will not be there. So you will see an increase next year. So you're seeing a decrease this year, but you're going to see somewhat of a significant increase for the following year, potentially. So you may want to, I caution you and ask good questions as far as, does that make sense to use the reserves or as much of the reserves and then have that be an increase of 1 or 2% or whatever you guys feel, but.
Is that something that residents of Underhill have any say in, or select board of Underhill has any say in what they do? Like, what is our,
Our board does. We approve the budget and then
we accept the budget.
we accept the budget and then, and then we own it. And then it comes up at town meeting of whether or not, what we're going to, but we're tied with Jericho. So that's why it's important that you're going to have a working detail session next week. And then once that has been worked, all the details have been worked out, hopefully everyone is homogeneous. Is that gonna work?
Yeah.
With the budget, then it will come back to a formal where Underhill and Jericho both will accept that. And then we will make that part of our budget. Then it will be locked in here. But right now, that's based upon that budget, I'm telling you, like, it's based upon using surplus dollars, and I don't know that you may all agree with that. And whether you do, whether you don't, I'm just making you aware that you would probably want to pay close attention.
And I kind of, so the whole idea I explained in my email. So we're going to meet Monday. Maureen, Dan, and I will go over and meet with Paula and I think Eric over in Jericho. Matt will go through the whole budget. You can ask questions. My hope is then we have our meeting on the 12th. You can relay it to the rest of the board, or we both can, or all can, about what we learned. And then potentially, this is just kind of tentative, but Jericho is going to meet on the 19th, and so are we planning on. So maybe we could do our joint meeting on the 19th. We could buzz over there, or they could buzz over here, or whatever, and get that done. So that's kind of the tentative plan right now.
Sounds wonderful.
Okay.
It seems that Jericho has always been pushing them to use more surplus. So it'll be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I think it will be too.
Because that is not, what has happened in the past.
I'm not, good, bad, or indifferent, I'm just making you aware, like,
Thank you.
that number is because they're using surplus, so
Yeah.
just go into this eyes wide open.
I mean, I would listen to their proposal of why they're using surplus, but also ask the questions to make sure they have enough left in surplus to be fiscally prudent in case something comes up.
Mm-hmm.
So if they want to use surplus, that may be totally appropriate, but how much do they have left over in surplus after they've used what they're planning?
And
Or is something unexpected, maybe unexpected revenue might pop up, but they're not counting on it. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah,
Because last year they had the unexpected failure of a vehicle
right.
or purchase of a vehicle.
The body or something.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that they're not overreaching, because their budget said it would be an 8% increase without use of surpluses. And with a surplus, it's a 1% decrease. So just make sure that that's
Yep.
an appropriate move and they are fiscally sound if they do that. And if they're not, I would push back and probe on that one.
Yeah.
Well, I think after we come back Monday and then we meet on the 12th, if you guys were all in agreement, say that was the case, you could just send Matt an email on behalf of the Underhill Select Board and just say, here, these are our concerns. And then maybe Jericho would do the same, and then we'd have a different budget we'd be looking at.
Or send our representatives back to the table with their representatives and, work it out.
Right.
Okay, so that was 150. The next one is, excuse me,
We're gonna go to 178.
oh, the library.
We're gonna go to the library. Library has, their budget has been approved and is final. So that's at 135,464, which is a 13.7% increase over last year.
Do we know what's in that, why that's such a large increase?
No.
Well, they were here when we, Livy, oh, that was the library.
Yeah.
No, we didn't.
That wasn't
The
the library,
library.
that was the park district. The
So,
library
so the library had their meeting.
annual meeting.
Which we could attend if we chose to,
Got it,
but we did not.
okay.
So-
We don't know what's in the increase.
Right.
And
And it's out of our
their
control
budget
now.
it is on their website, but I didn't even
We
look at
also
it
gave them some ARPA funds, right, for the HVAC
Right.
system,
last year.
which was above and beyond what their budget was of 118, 119.
Yeah, 119. So
So,
it is, their budget is available on their website. I did glance at it, but it was 3 weeks ago and I can't
it's a
remember.
beautiful library. Have you ever been? You should go. Seriously.
It's a fantastic library. They do awesome children's programs, adult programs. They have a room with a fireplace that you can go sit and read. They have magazines, which if you haven't read a magazine in a long time, it's really fun to go in there and read People Magazine or the New York Times.
They do a nice job over there.
They do.
Yeah, there's a lot of really great programs for
Yeah,
kids
and
adults.
if you're a member of that library, which you're all entitled to be a member, you can become a member of the online library, the digital library. I don't know if you know about it, but for free, you join this thing called the online library. It's called Libby is the app you download on your phone. And I literally read free Kindle books every night. So you can do online Audible books and all that for free.
It's amazing. They
No.
also have museum passes, so you can go to
And
free
free
museums.
museum passes.
For your whole family.
No,
You
it's
can
pretty,
pass, yeah.
Patty, if you ever want to talk
Anyways.
about the library,
Now you
I'm
feel
happy to
guilty
talk.
Now you feel guilty you've never been.
You can get free state park pass too.
Such a slacker.
Okay, anyway, you should all join the library. Wanted to also point out line 181, there's that local agreement. Remember, I explained
Yes.
when we were talking about it on line 7, that it's foregone revenue, which means that we didn't get the money, so we really can't spend it kind of thing. So it's not something that needs to be on the budget at all, because it's really a wash. I just put it on here as a revenue and expense, partially because it was done before I arrived, that was always done, but also because I think it's important for our residents and us to understand that because we have these local contracts, because we have veterans exemptions, et cetera, we don't have this money. So the revenue therefore has to get raised through taxes of everyone else in order to support those expenses. So that's why it shows as a revenue and an expense. The Energy Committee is at 500.
So they, I just want to.
Yep.
Yeah, so Steve Webster reached out, left me a voicemail. I haven't called him back yet, but they'd like to come in and pitch a proposal for their solar project on the 12th, if you're willing to entertain that.
Depends on how heavy the schedule is. I'd really like to.
Yeah, it's not too bad so far. So, but that's a budgetary thing. If you're going to entertain that, it needs to get in the budget. That's kind of the way we left it with the ARPA thing, right?
Exactly.
So,
That was one of my questions.
Yeah.
We don't have any money for the solar project.
no, that's just their.
You got
typical-
$16,000 from the bus that you could use.
This is true.
Yeah, we're not paying for the bus anymore because
Blackout
they're
bus.
not doing the busing anymore.
You just remove that line altogether?
Yeah.
No, you
Can
just-
we put some line item in for the solar project?
No,
Why not?
kidding. I'm just kidding.
We put some line, something in there, we can always take it out.
Would that be a capital expense?
I would ask you that question.
I would say, I would say it is.
I would say yes, it is
So,
a capital expense.
I can
but
put it in
I
on
would
capital.
suggest hearing out the Energy Committee maybe next time. I don't know.
So
Then it
They
won't
might
be
have
there.
other ideas.
Mhm.
Right. See what their proposal is, how much money they're talking, and then,
I would like to hear from them and put something for our consideration.
Yeah.
We can always take it out if we get to the end of this and say, oh my God, it's too much. But I would like to start with it.
we would never say that.
I can, if you're willing, I could feel out how much money they're talking about. I can have Jennifer add it into the budget for discussion for the
Let's do
12th.
that.
I'll
and
put it
let's
in.
Hear from them.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
But let, add it in so we at least have that.
it will go under capital expenses, other line 214.
And that would be a good warning, a good town meeting day question.
Exactly.
So we should, shall the voters allocate so much surplus funds for a solar project or something, That sounds,
On Pleasant Valley Road.
right.
Near 554.
That's right.
There's too many trees there.
Oh my gosh, and with the trees that are there might fall.
Exactly. I've been
Um,
cutting them all
As
out.
long as they don't.
Moving down to Mount Mansfield Television, the reason that was there is because we received the letter asking for the $200 increase. So I added that in for Mount Mansfield Television. The Chittenden County Court Tax, that's
Oh, yeah.
line 193, that's just our share of the Chittenden County tax for the courthouse.
Who's the sheriff? Did we go over that already?
Yep, public safety.
I didn't change that one.
Well, we've got an hourly rate increase.
I had.
And they were supposed to give us back with
Oh, yeah.
a proposal. We haven't got that yet.
I already had their hourly increase in there. Chittenden County tax line 193, moving down.
And that's it. There's no other green items on the rest of the agenda, or the rest of the
Well,
budget.
the only other green item, which is not green now, is line 235, the heavy equipment maintenance for the next version. I'll add that mulcher head into that for the next version.
Got it.
Speaking of heavy equipment maintenance, I'm still excited about tractors and wanting to do roadside mowing on our own. So,
But
I
you
bet-
propose a sandbox.
no, not yet. That comes later. But I've been told that we should forego that, and that there are other items that may be higher up on the list. And I was advised that today by our friends on the road crew, and Russ can probably articulate a little bit more, but they seem to think that the use of a backhoe would be more appropriate, and maybe we could look into a secondhand backhoe. The other item that they would like us to possibly consider is a truck that could carry their tools and whatnot. The excavator that we have does not have any equipment space for storing tools and everything like that. So if they were going to wish upon a star, those are two items that they would like to have considered, is a parts type truck that could be helped for that type of thing, and or a backhoe. So
A backhoe, a rubber tired backhoe? Okay.
just to talk about that a little bit more is, this time of year when we're loading trucks and stuff during the storms, that we have one piece of equipment that can load trucks, and that's our bucket loader. If that should happen to not start some morning or quit during a storm, we have no way of loading our trucks with material.
What's the excavator do?
Well, how are you going to screen sand and then dig sand out of a grizzly and load trucks?
With an excavator?
Yeah.
For winter sand?
Yeah.
You couldn't bail into the pile and load into.
Well, then you have to run it through the screen, and then you get pile underneath the screen to get it out.
Right.
Is it possible?
Yeah,
It's possible. Is it handy? No, but that's one of the reasons. That's one thing about a backhoe. The other things are, if we do some big projects around town during the summer with our excavator, that some days it requires just an operator if he's mulching or if he's just doing things that he can do by himself, finishing up projects that we have another piece of equipment that we can go out and clean ends of culverts and maybe small ditching jobs, deberming, things like that. Or if we've got beavers that are plugged up over in Gertz Knob or North Underhill Station Road, that we can go and reach in, clean it out. And versus, yes, we can move the excavator there, but it's one of those things, it's never a convenient thing. And you got to trailer it, obviously. And it's just a piece of equipment that could be utilized in many different ways around town. And again, it was just something that we would not even have to be a new one. Could even be a one-off lease or slightly used one.
And approximately dollar wise, we can see where we're coming in at with the budget. And if it looks like it's too high, clearly this is something that we could, be moved, but I don't think that we're talking about an exorbitant amount of money for a piece of equipment like that. What was the figure that you guys found?
We found some just in the magazines that come around, around 80 to 90,000 for a slightly used one. New one, I did price a new one just to have an idea. It was 180,000, and that's with cleanup bucket, ditch bucket, or digging bucket, and a ditch cleanup bucket wrist. Set up nicely if we're going to buy something new. So just to give some numbers.
I don't want to throw a wrench in things, but that's kind of my job. I think it's great. I think it's wonderful that you want this new equipment. And respectfully, we all met and had a capital meeting. We met for however many sessions we met for. And Patty was on that committee but didn't come.
Shame.
Dan was on it, but these things didn't come up, and so they weren't part of our consideration at all. They're not on the plan. They're not anywhere on this. So this is the first I've heard of it. So it's not something that I feel prepared to discuss. But generally speaking, $80,000 or $90,000 on the budget is a very significant number on our budget, and it probably, it's somewhere between, it's probably a whole percent on the tax.
This is something I was not planning on bringing up. This is just something we had a conversation
I brought it up.
with Bob.
That this is not, that don't target this at Russ.
No, I'm not. I'm saying it didn't come up.
You can target it to me, that I had the conversation with the road crew, and I would like to have it placed into for consideration to see where it stands out. And if it needs to be an item that is, specifically warned and the voters decide on that would be fine with me. But I think it's one of those things that if it's a tool that they need to do their jobs better, then I think that the residents should be able to consider that. It's their money. So it's just like, if your road crew is saying like, this would help them, then I think that we should listen.
Sure, but that item would certainly have to go on the warning.
Right, but
I have no problem with that.
but with the balance of making sure that we're not exceeding our borrowing capacity, that it fits in with other future lending that we plan to do.
Absolutely.
Future borrowing we plan to do for, Bridge 7, Sorry, my brain is not working at this coldest.
We're almost up to $1 million in debt right now.
Right.
Something we've never seen before, ever.
And if this is, just so you know, if this is something that would be a warrant item, it wouldn't go on the budget. No items that are warning items go on this budget. So we're going to set a budget that the board is going to say, this is the budget that we're putting forth to the voters. And that wouldn't include any items that are warrant items.
That's fine.
So we would have to be prepared. Just when you put items on the warning, you want to be prepared, like, okay, if those things all get voted yes, here's what's going to happen to the actual tax rate. So I'm just telling you guys that, you know, we're going to build our budget and be very fiscally prudent. And then we just also want to be conscious of any things that we put on the warning as additional items.
Perfectly said.
That's precisely why we left our roadside mower idea off the warning, because we were adding other things and it was getting a little bit scary
On the warning.
on the warning.
Right.
And, you know, so your point is well taken, that you just don't willy-nilly put things on there, because townspeople may vote for them without understanding fully what it means.
Well, that's why we have informational meetings and all of that, so that everyone is as well informed as they possibly can be. And that's why we have a town meeting as well.
Well said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people need to participate in those things and understand what they're voting for.
I think that's it.
So I had been taking notes throughout the year, and I passed my notes along to Jennifer, and just wanted to run through this to see what is or is not in the current version of the budget. We had talked about crosswalk improvements, but I think we had punted on those for the sidewalk project. We also talked about, I'm just going to run through this list quick. These are things that, as we were having meetings, I would just jot down notes. Tire replacement versus retreading and capping old ones. Do we have anything in for tire replacements in the budget versus recapping? The retreading?
No, the only thing we have is basically one line item that covers any expenses for truck repairs or heated items.
So do we have accounted for the tire? I don't know if you remember the
I do,
conversation.
yeah, I do remember the conversation. It's a very difficult subject, because obviously we'd want to recap as many tires as we can for the cost savings.
Mhm.
And the reasoning for having to purchase new tires is because the tires get to be a certain age and then they cannot be recapped.
Mhm.
So the tire guys look at it, find the code that's a date, and then they say, oh, this one's no good anymore, and we have to dispose of it. So it usually turns out that the way the trucks are set up, it's usually that probably in most cases will be able to be recapped. And
But you
then,
factored, we don't need to go into the gory
No.
detail, but you factored that into our numbers.
It's under the dump truck maintenance 236.
Okay. The other thing I had was stop signs for unsigned road intersections. We had done an inventory on that, 21 inventory. 21 inventory. Have we done the stop signs in the budget?
I believe that has to be a road policy
Oh, that's right.
Stop sign policy.
Stop sign
Policy
ordinance.
Before we put anything in the budget? Or do we need to
Yeah,
put
we had a
anything?
sign count.
We did a sign count of what roads had them, what roads didn't. But I believe there's only a handful of legal stop signs in town.
Right.
So,
And you didn't propose adding much more than what we have.
well, I feel if a road has a stop sign, it needs to be valid.
Well, I understand that, but what Patty's getting at, or if we did do that and get to that point, are we going to need more stop signs?
Oh, I think there was a few that didn't have stop signs. I think a lot of it, which would just, you know, when we have some, but that would probably just come out of our normal sign budget. If we needed to add some need to be replaced. I think the biggest topic is we need to have a ordinance, stop sign ordinance for
Okay.
each road.
All
So
right, so all
Well,
right, I just want to make
blanket
sure that we
ordinance.
capture
A
all this
blanket
stuff, so when we
ordinance.
get into the budget
Yeah.
year, it's
So
not,
far, so good.
it's not select board contingency.
Yeah, it's very valid that you're doing this. I appreciate it.
But basically, it's stop signs, what, $100 or something, or? a couple
Yeah,
of
they're
bucks?
not that much.
So-
A couple $100.
If we need a few more.
We also talked about funds for class 4 road maintenance.
Mm.
Question mark, question mark, question mark. Did we do anything in this version? Do we want to put anything in this version? Some amount of money
I mean, you've already spent
for Dean Road.
a considerable amount of money on one class 4 road.
Yeah, but it didn't come out of a class 4 line item because there isn't a line item for
Right.
that.
No, it would be added into either contractors or materials or whatever. So if we had an idea of how many,
Or that-
projects.
Or that needs to be a line item that's put in, or for consideration like it was an advisory several years ago, is that should the town of Underhill allocate, money for, to be utilized on class 4 roads? And several years ago, the answer to that question was no. So it may be fair to ask that advisory question again, because it's been several years since that's been asked, and this would be the reasons why.
And
the
we
class-
certainly had work that needed to be done on Stevensville Road. That was class 4.
Right, but we also have been pairing with the state, and they've been picking up half the bill or
Right.
a lot of the bill, material bill. Dean Road was all, not even us doing the work. We contracted somebody else to do the work. The class 4 road committee recommended, I think $2,500 a year, maybe in the culvert line item. You're also offering up, material at the town's cost, but that gets really complicated too, especially in a Downs Road situation. They just wound up going their own, buying the material themselves, which is probably a lot cleaner way to do it. Like I
I'm
said,
just saying,
Cambridge,
we may want to consider putting something in, just as a placeholder for now, for some work on class 4 roads. Just a little bit of money in there, because there's going to be something that pops up and we're not going to have enough. And this is, again, it's so that we don't run into, take from this account, that account. We're not scrambling to pay for things that we have
Or-
to pay for.
well, the question is though, if you're doing your own, if the road crew goes out and does some work on class 4 roads as they have, that's really just operating expenses. If you're going to use gravel, that's one
It's
thing. If you're going to buy
materials.
the
It's in the
materials,
contract that we need to have something set aside, correct?
yeah,
We hire a Chris Paul.
miscellaneous contractors
that's-
or whatever.
Which we used our miscellaneous contractors, which were fine.
So then is it like miscellaneous contractors, but that's like earmarked for class 4 roads? If like, I don't know if that's how it would work, if we needed to add something in. But I think it probably makes sense and just as a placeholder, as you said. And maybe it is asking the question, putting the question to the voters.
And the other thing that I would like to do is we push on this class 4 road bid and we address it this year. That we take up the road,
Mm-hmm.
the committee's report, and we start taking action on that.
Mhm.
There's a lot of work done, and
Yeah.
really good work, and I think we should move the ball forward on that.
Yeah.
No, it's good.
So just to specifically answer
No, it
a
is.
question or try to see if you want me to actually put something in here for version 4 so we can talk about it again next week, is if you wanted me to add a certain percentage, again, maybe you want it to be a percentage, in the contractor miscellaneous, just to have a, kind of built-in budgetary, in case you needed to hire a contractor to help do a project on a class 4 road that you guys weren't going to be able to do, you could add something in there. We have 30,000 in there right now.
So 1%.
But I don't know, it's up to you.
How about a line item, or not a line item, in addition to that 30,000 of 7,500, just as a placeholder for now,
Okay.
just so it's on our radar, we can talk about it.
Got it.
And then I had the insurance inspection report, but those are stupid. Outlets, catch basins, fire extinguishers, they were very
Yeah.
small.
Well, there was that one project for the gas or the fuel shed. That was in the report that actually, I've got a follow-up email asking how we're coming along with those projects. And that was the most significant one. I
And
think
that's
if I
not in
were,
the budget.
if I just would add a suggestion to just have somebody build the thing. You guys wanted to build it yourself or, okay,
What's
you wouldn't
the,
be out? Okay.
what's the cost for building the fuel shed?
If I remember correctly, it was around 5 for materials, okay, which is lumber, metal roofing. It's not cut lumber, metal roofing. If I remember correctly, somewhere around that.
And we could put that under building grounds maintenance?
We probably could utilize some of that money that's in that line this year.
We spent 3,800 out of 10,500 last year. So you might have the money in the budget this year to do it. I don't know.
This spring.
We could pull it away out of it.
Yeah.
Get a little bit.
I do it right here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing it. Utilize this budget.
Sounds good.
They got low time, slow time, yeah.
Usually it's in the wintertime. Go ahead.
Next
Sorry.
item?
That was it.
Oh, awesome.
Aren't you speedy and efficient?
Thank you. It
Is
was
that
great
okay?
taking these notes. I'll just jot them down.
Are you guys okay with that about if we plugged away at it a little bit here and there and
When you've got downtime,
if we get some time?
or slow time, I should say.
Yeah, and if it's something that needs to happen regardless for the insurance stuff and you have money in the budget for the materials, then yeah,
Yep.
we should.
We've got our permits, right? Everything we need for that. Just need one to hang up outside.
Yeah,
Who do I contact for that?
me, as soon as you're ready to do it.
I'll pick it up in the morning.
So there's no other discussion, other items on the agenda. This is Patty's favorite time of the meeting where we get to adjourn, so I'll move that we adjourn.
I would second.
It's not debatable, so all those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you, everyone. It is now 7:53.
Look forward to version 4
Thank
Thursday.
you.
Thanks,
Great
Sarah.
work, everyone.